This is TWiT.
2 days before Christmas or whatever, pretty close to it, Microsoft formally revealed what we've always kind of known or long known, and that is that it is deprecating and getting rid of the Windows mixed reality platform, which is their VR platform.
Whoa,
right? That was kind of
they denied that for a long time, didn't it? That they
they did as recently as just a few months ago. Yeah,
because it was rumored, that was what's going to happen.
Yeah. So I was, speaking of things that don't exist anymore, I was in New York at the Microsoft store a couple of years back, and I witnessed something kind of interesting. I think in fact, we might have been recording a show there, but I saw them bringing all these boxes out from the store and putting them on a truck. Oh. And the boxes were Samsung mixed reality headsets.
Ooh.
And I was like, wow. I was like, what's going on there? And they're like, nobody's going to buy these things. We're getting rid of them. I was like, okay. And oddly, in a weird coincidence, I just came across that photo because I've been going through my photos or whatever. And so I have the photographic evidence of it. But but that was several years ago. So they they held on to this thing for a while. They have not updated the software platform in a meaningful way in roughly forever, I guess is the way I would say it. And you really have to go back to probably 2016, 2017, right around that time frame when Microsoft started doing those creator updates, remember, for Windows 10. And a big part of that was like Paint 3D, Remix 3D. They were going to do an integration with Windows Phone at one point where you were going to be able to take a 3D picture of an object and turn it into a 3D model that you could then 3D print and edit and so forth. And Windows Mixed Reality was obviously a big part of that. But yeah, it's not, it doesn't have.
It's interesting because the rumor is strong that Apple will announce and release the Vision Pro headset end of this month, early next month. Like we're weeks away from that. Apple having put probably close to $100 billion into it over 10 years, and has making a device that's going to cost $3,500 is all in on their mixed reality. Do you think that Microsoft is giving up because Apple's getting in?
No, I think they're giving up because Meta, for whatever reason, has decided this is a big deal for them, and they have this series of MetaQuest devices, and they partner with Microsoft on the productivity stuff. So you see Microsoft Office. That was a recent announcement.
This is such a polite version of the explanation. It's like, well, Zuck's spent $10 billion. We don't want to spend $10 billion, so let's go use his $10 billion.
We don't need to. In other words, that's not our business. It's making hardware.
It's.
Does it mean HoloLens is dead?
Microsoft?
No, that's
but the thing is,
it may be pining for the fjords.
Yeah, right. HoloLens has had some limited success, obviously, in some very specific niche, or we'll call them vertical markets. I almost not niche markets, but vertical markets. Like NASA going to Mars. That's a big market for them. That's good. Automakers who are building cars, smart. That's a good use of this device.
It was their jet engine thing, but the big they got sabotaged by the military. I think personally, like the military derailed them.
You could also argue that the military kept this thing going, and that if the military hadn't signed on at all, maybe it would be over. Yeah. Right.
But it also, I've heard rumor, pretty good ones, that they're just waiting for the right hardware. Like there's no point in they got the HoloLens 3 to prototype and said this is just not good enough. And
maybe this is a Qualcomm problem. Didn't they go to ARM for the Gen 2 chipset? Right. Yeah. They had Tim Sweeney on stage when they announced this, remember?
Yeah. From Epic. I mean, they're trying. So you can't argue with Alice Kipman's vision of put it all on the head, right? Like he wasn't wrong.
I would be careful with that phrase. And Alice Kipman, I'm pretty sure that's why
on the head.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's why he no longer has a job. But
so I notice I'm wearing rather large not a backpack spectacals today because I want to get used to
being a nerd.
Being a nerd, wearing rather large spectacles, but I'm not willing to go so far as to strap a computer on my forehead.
Yes, that's right.
I think social standards change when the experience is compelling enough. Once upon a time, walking around with a phone in your hand was not socially acceptable either.
My objection is not what people are going to say. I've given that up a long time ago. My objection is it makes me queasy even to think about strapping that thing on for any length of time.
The thing that bugs me about mixed reality, I guess we'll call it a virtual reality, is that many years ago now, remember Google came out with the little the cardboard thing, right?
Yes.
You put your phone in the back of it. And at that time, and to this day, you can do a very simplistic thing. I would do this in Paris because I know the city very well. Do a street view thing in Google Maps. Well, actually, at that time it was a Street View mobile app, whatever, it doesn't matter. And just put it on some street in Paris, and then you click, 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 and it goes down one screen at a time, like we used to do in video games before id Software came around and turned it into real-time movement, right? That was the way the Dungeon Quest games work. You would click, click, click down. And even in that limited context, there was something really magical about this. And I always felt like that these devices and the things we have now especially could be used for really immersive kind of travel aids for people who are maybe are handicapped in some way or just can't afford it or whatever it might be. They're not going to this place physically, but they can be transported there virtually.
Yeah.
In what I think is a really compelling way.
I think the best thing you do in the VR scenarios like that is like, and also show it to me in 1941.
Yes. Oh my God. Please, I would never come out of this thing if you could do this.
Or in 1600. Right? Like
that's what I would love. I actually had that epiphany in Rome. I'm walking around in the Forum, all tumbled down, but trying to imagine what this must have looked like in its heyday, and that's exactly
this is the problem. The simplistic example of that is you're in a museum and there's a dinosaur skeleton, and you put up your iPad or whatever as your phone, and you can see that the animals.
And I would wear a headset for dedicated purposes like that. If I'm touring Rome or a museum. And I wear that. I mean, I wear headphones.
Just something simple. Sitting in a like a Paris cafe, and you have got that immersive kind of Dolby Atmos style sound. So glasses are clinking and people are chatting, and the doors are opening and closing, coffee's being made, and like you could lose yourself in this. I mean, pretty easily.
Okay.
Right. I mean, I
think try to drink the coffee.
Well, someone could hand you a coffee, and that would put it over the top. That's for sure, right?
It's like Nescafe.
You're presuming you could find your mouth without being able to see the cup.
Yeah.
Right? I have a hard enough time finding my mouth without anything on my face.
Yeah. I have lots of friends in the gaming industry, and one of the things that, the big conversation about the difference between a 3-foot experience, having a screen, and the 3-inch experience, having it on your face, is that acceleration matters, right? Like the reality in most first-person shooters is that you're running at 30 miles an hour because it's boring if you're not. If you actually use it run at normal human speeds,
this is right. The video games are like this. They'll say, if you were the guy in Call of Duty is you're instantly 30 miles an hour or whatever.
Yeah. And so there was they could never, with the notable exception of Alex, the cost to make a game that worked well in VR wasn't worth the number of headsets that existed. So it's just like, it never has gotten there. Yeah. And it ended up, Alex is again a great example of this. It actually isn't a good idea. Video games are also storytelling, and storytelling requires cinematography, and VR undermines cinematography. It takes you can look anywhere. So you do, not where the story is. And half of the detail of Alex, if you watch the meta, is the character Alex trying to get you to look to the right place. By the way,
that's actually a problem in 2D games as well. Forcing the gamer to be looking at the right place
on the thing the storyteller wants you to know.
That's a tough. Now,
problem. When you turn it into a 3-dimensional world, like, good luck. You're going to wander off into a French cafe instead of saving the world.
I would. That's true. Yeah, I'd ride it out in the cafe. That would be my thing. Anyway, I think Microsoft is doing in mixed reality / virtual reality what they did in mobile, which is just kind of acknowledge we're not going to be a major player on the hardware side, but we can still play a role here, and we'll bring our our productivity solutions to these platforms, right? So we'll see if those. Actually, does anyone remember? Was there a big? I don't actually remember when Apple announced their headset. Was Microsoft a little part of it? I think they might have been, right? No, they were nothing. Okay.
They are pushing productivity with their Vision Pro, which to me, I just don't want to. You know what? I guess I'm the wrong person. I just don't want to, period. But the last thing I'd want to do is do Microsoft Word or an Excel spreadsheet on the thing. And then people say, but you have 5-foot screens all around you. And but I got to do weird motions and gestures.
Most of the gaming scenarios in these environments are just a 2D screen floating in space, you know, which is
interestingly, Microsoft, I mean, Apple's not really focused on gaming. At least not until games come out, I guess.
Right. And then they will really focus on it. Sure.
One thing that the MacBreak Weekly team seemed very excited about is watching movies in the Vision Pro. The other thing Apple's pushing is you can use the Vision Pro or now your latest iPhone to do stereoscopic video. They call it spatial video. And, you know, it's very moving to see possibly like an IMAX type experience where it actually isn't just, it has to be, we used to go to an IMAX theater and it was almost like going to a tennis match where you had to kind of physically move your head to, you know, take in the entire thing.
Yeah. So big.
But maybe that's the point, because because otherwise what you've got is that flat screen floating in space experience. And I don't think that's particularly compelling.
Yeah.
I'm happy Apple's working on it. You know, that Tim Cook's made this bet and maybe something will come of it. But
that's a good way to look at it.
Show me the app.
I'm skeptical.
Show me the app.
But I'm thrilled if they come up with something. And if someday I can wear these nerd glasses and I get a heads-up display on them,
there you go.
Sure. That'd be cool. I'd be happy about that.
See that. You'll
when
never
you start
see
remembering everybody's name, Leo, then we'll know you have it. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's perfect. Somebody like me, I have terrible face recognition.
I do too. I have good face recognition, but not name memory.
No, I don't do either. So basically, you look like a thumb to me until you say your name. So I need something like that would superimpose on the thumb your face and name.
Sure,
that would be good.
There you just look like a horrible blow-up doll version of my face, but.
No, I can think, and you know what? The Meta glasses from Ray-Ban are actually more svelte than what I'm wearing. Mike Elgin says the sound is great on them. You can talk to Meta's assistant there. There's a camera. They just announced a feature where you can use the camera to recognize something by taking a picture of it, and the assistant will analyze it and then come back to you. So, we're kind of getting there, and maybe Apple, by putting a lot of money into this technology, will get there too. Seems like Meta has the lead here at this point.
I feel like the two things Apple has going for it is that they tend not to release product until they've done wallets who love to spend money. Yep. But they also tend not to release anything unless it's, to a point where they can really make a difference. And they have a history of other people showing up with their platforms and showing what makes this thing make sense. Yeah. Like Adobe with the Mac, or the health stuff on the watch, which was not the primary point of it when it first came up, but from year 2 on, it was, because that's where everyone went.
It does seem like Apple's learned that lesson, because they're not really prescribing a use for it. I think they're taking kind of a wait and see.
That could also, but that's what Microsoft did with HoloLens, and it was almost like if you build it, someone will come. And
but there was a lot of gatekeeping around the HoloLens too. You couldn't just buy it and get a dev kit. You had to submit a prospectus.
Oh, really?
It was a huge barrier.
In the beginning,
Okay. Yep. Well, that's true now, but as soon as these come out, 500,000 lucky people.
It may. That's the thing. We'll see. The HoloLens never came down in price, right? It's still very, very expensive.
Yeah, it's a lot of hardware. And there's not enough of them. Like, the mass manufacturing is not a thing. Like, it's going to stay stuck there. And so is the Vision Pro. The bigger question here is, when do you build the next one? Like, when do you obsolete the few customers you got?
It's just hard for me to be sanguine about Apple's future with this thing. But maybe there's something.
The problem is it's not a phone. And we've managed to program society to replace phones on a regular basis. But you don't replace your PCs.
You know what we have definitely programmed society to do is to stare at a screen all the time. And so that is kind of halfway to wearing a helmet all the time.
Yeah.
Sure.
So maybe now throw in an unbreathing atmosphere, a couple of other features, and
we're on Mars.
Everybody being
nobody who watched the original Star Wars thought that the best scene was the one where he was wearing the helmet he couldn't see out of, and that's the only part of that movie we've made. So great.
Hey there, I'm Micah Sargent from TWiT, and you may be asking a question. What in the world do you do if you want to thank that hard-working team of yours? Well, why not gift them a Club TWiT corporate subscription? Oh, and here's a secret. You'll be benefiting yourself too, because you will be able to keep your team informed and entertained with podcasts covering the latest in tech, so they'll always stay up to date. With a Club TWiT subscription, they're going to get access to all of our podcasts ad-free. They'll get access to the members-only Discord server where they can chat with fellow Club TWiT members and all of us here at TWiT, and exclusive shows like Hands on Mac, Hands on Windows, and the Untitled Linux Show. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit and look for corporate plans for complete details.